to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ebro in the Morning. We got Laura Stiles on assignment right now. We got Rosenberg, but we have two amazing humans joining our program, Cari Champion, Jemele Hill. What is the name of the new program on Vice, ladies?
It's called Cari and Jemele Stick to Sports. People have asked us several times what the name is because I know initially another name had came out when we were rushing to get a press release in, but it is Stick to Sports, which is obviously, you guys know this because you're in the sports world, it's an ironic name. It's for everybody that says, shut up and dribble. You can't have an opinion. We're going to do everything but stick to sports, and then we're going to give you guys a side of sports with the show.
Well, sports is so much a part of everyday life in many ways, right? The players are regular human beings going through real things out here, so for them to just stick to sports has always been kind of not only condescending, racist and all that, but ridiculous, right? Like how are these humans who are fathers and mothers and in relationships and going about their everyday lives, they can't have anything else going on in their life other than what they do to entertain us all, right?
Yeah.
Which is play sports.
But we have to be very specific because, really, we don't necessarily mean all athletes. We mean Black athletes. And those are the ones that Black athletes, women, those who fit the marginalized groups are the ones that are told to stick to sports. And part of it comes with just a larger condition in America when you're in a marginalized group is that people are very willing for you to entertain them. They do not want to acknowledge your whole life as a person in this marginalized groups, just because it's not just too uncomfortable, but they also think that you should be grateful. Like, oh, we let you have this success. How dare you actually bring attention to where we might have been complicit in racism or sexism or misogyny or anything else. So it's a very intentional insult only directed at certain people.
No, and white people are safe unless, of course, your political opinion happens to be supportive of Black issues, in which case then you also have to stick to sports.
Yes, that's the other little disclaimer and asterisk.
White people can agree with us, yeah.
Yes, white people cannot agree. But even if they do, they don't necessarily get the same heat.
No, not the same. Not the same.
So, yeah, they don't necessarily get the same.
Nobody's even giving Nate Boyer heat. He was the one who told to kneel. He told Colin Kaepernick to kneel. We always forget that. I mean, how do we forget that it was a white veteran who used to be in his world who told him to kneel? I don't understand how we forget that one part of the story.
Because Nate Boyer didn't have a big, amazing afro, and and which is also synonymous with one of the things that's driven white America crazy, because that afro ties to a time in our country's history which was, just blatantly African and Black, and a celebration of our natural hair, which is a whole other conversation around how America has been offended by our hair, and white people have been offended by our hair and our natural hair and that's a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But that's why. It's because you had this Black man with his unapologetic, amazing afro on the sideline on a knee.
Yeah. Why do we have to deal with that? He was kneeling for cancer, remember? I tell everybody that. Let him kneel for cancer. He would have been an American hero.
Or let him kneel to pray like Tim Tebow during the national anthem.
Whoa.
Well, I will have to say, though.
Tim got heat.
Tim caught it, too.
Yes, that was a meme that got around. Tim Tebow never kneeled during the national anthem. He kneeled in the end zone. And then people took that and said, when he kneels, it's all right. I was like, no, he was praying after a touchdown. Y'all know how Tim Tebow get down.
Jemele used to, prior to marriage, had a crush on Tim Tebow. So she...
I mean, listen.
If started, people gonna think you serious, Cari. I was like, I didn't know Tim Tebow since high school, but no crush.
I mean, listen. Any man, woman, or child who saw Tim Tebow when he came to the Jets and was running in that T-shirt.
Yeah.
Everyone
had a crush for 5 seconds.
Listen, you had to stop and go, okay, well, this is interesting.
Cari, you play around and joke so much. Is that common knowledge? You're one of my drinking buddies. When I used to go out to the clubs, me and you and Jemele have had some fun nights out drinking and having a good time. Or when we're in Ghana in the hotel bar, we've had some beverages together. But do people know that side of you, that you gotta sometimes with Cari, you gotta watch and pay attention where she's moving, because you don't know if she's joking, you don't know if she's serious?
I find that so interesting because I hear that all the time. Ebro, but I'm deadpan when I'm joking. So I guess I don't know. Jay, Jay and I have talked about this. She said people will be surprised to see me and how I am on the show because people think I'm so serious and so whatever they feel, whatever the television feels. Jay's husband said when he used to watch me on TV, he was like, she all stuck up and stuff. But then he was just joking, obviously. But still, I think people will be pleasantly surprised, at least I think they will be, to find out that there is a veneer that probably I wore that I wasn't aware of. When you're hosting Sports Center, there were opportunities for me to have fun. I just think that they were only for those people who really understood me and got me. If you don't get me and you flipping through the channel and you see me reading some stuff, you don't know what it is. But when I was on First Take, there was no opportunity. Every now and again, but I think that people don't get my sense of humor. So I have to start making that clear. Like, hey, this is a joke. Jay always says that, hi, she's joking.
She's joking. On Stick to Sports, which comes on Vice when?
It comes on August 19th tonight at 10 p.m.
Tonight, 10 p.m. Jemele and Cari, Stick to Sports. What's the format? What are we going to see tonight? Well,
the biggest thing you're going to see is that LeBron James is our first guest.
Amazing.
So,
wow.
LeBron's our first guest. He may or may not have dropped a cuss word in this because you could cuss on Vice. So we have LeBron on there talking about voter suppression because, we're sticking to sports. And so I think what you'll see is, of course, in this opening episode, we're going to explain our friendship, explain how things came about, explain the title. And then we have some fun little games that we will mix in the show. Is that racist? A really fun game.
Oh, wait, hold on. We got something.
You got to ask me, bro.
That's racist.
Right.
Yo, can we borrow that drop?
I know, right?
We used to do a segment on our show called
That's racist.
And we'll give you the drop. You guys
it was
can run
basically,
with it.
I'm sure it was basically the exact same thing. Yeah, just pointing out things that, well, in our case, we didn't ask. It was basically like, this is racist. But
no, this is like a true question. Like we had things that I wouldn't say, I don't know, borderline is the right word, but where you could say like, oh, like one of the questions we asked, like, is the word uppity racist? Right?
Yo, I have so many feelings about that word.
So it's racist?
To me, it's completely, hands down only racist. Like, I believe that when you use that word, it was intended, or so it always felt, to be towards black people trying to be too good. So that's how I hear it.
Or
so
you think, you acting uppity, like you're not even supposed to be acting the way you're acting right now?
No, you're supposed to be low. Stop acting like you're high.
And it's 100% know your place.
And so when people say it about when people use it in other contexts, it's not like I think they're trying to be racist, but I always cringe when I hear it. What's your guys' thought on it?
Oh, I think it's racist. But let me ask you this. I've never heard this, and maybe it's happened and I just wasn't aware. I've never heard the word uppity directed at somebody white, like ever. I don't like, it's always directed at somebody black or implied.
And how about this? I've never heard a white person say it to me clearly about a black person. I've only heard my black elders, like my grandma used to say it to her sister. But that's clearly inherited behavior from, old school black inheritance plantation shit.
But bro, if your grandmother is saying it to her sister, did it feel like it was a racist insult at that time? Like, consider the context of that.
Well, I had to learn that from my father later. At the time, I didn't know when they was joking with each other, oh, you being an uppity Negro, or calling each other bourgeoisie, or using the N-word with one another, that these are all things that we took on. These are all tropes and things that we took on because it was used against us to demean us and to put us in our place.
Wouldn't bougie be the more kind, silly, and familial way to try to communicate what your grandmother was communicating now?
Yeah, people still say it now.
Like
jokingly.
You would say to a loved one, though, whereas uppity, I feel like at this point to say that would be, I don't know, inappropriate almost up and down the board, no?
I don't necessarily agree. I feel that, and that's probably because the way I use it, I just be joking. Like, Jemele will, get something nice. I'm like, you've been real uppity, girl. She's like, I am. I'm being real.
But when I do my when I do our conference calls in my robe, in my Versace robe, she'd be like, "You just so uppity."
Well,
real talk. As we were starting this show, we would have conference calls with all executives' advice. Jemele would hop on with a red Versace robe, and I was like, "Oh, okay. Is that what we're doing?" I said, "You're real uppity right now."
Well, and clearly in that context, right? You're saying it jokingly to somebody you're familiar with.
All right. Let me ask you this. Is the word Negro racist?
Is the word Negro racist? If it's used today, yes. Because black people have told you many, many times that that's not how you're supposed to be identifying us.
But black people still use the word Negro though. A lot of older, like they'll be like Negro.
In what context?
Please.
Oh.
Yeah, but they
Negro,
don't. But that's not. But once again, that's joking.
Right.
But if a white person were to come along and go, okay, the Negro, well, in the Negro neighborhood,
that would sound. You feel like they walked out of a time machine.
But that's my point.
Right.
So
that's what Terry said. Like
that's what I'm clearly pointing out is that if it's used now in today's context, you're saying that to take us back to a time where you, white man, referred to us in a way that you chose to refer to us.
Well, look, I believe there are words, Ebro, that we use that are not wholly racist. It depends on who's saying it. So when you say, is that racist? It's not a yes or a no. Sometimes, not oftentimes, sometimes. Let me ask you one more. George Jefferson, is he racist?
Is George Jefferson racist? Well, he's a black man. So in the social construct context, no. He didn't have enough power.
But he was
to
a
be
bigot.
Racist. But he's a prejudiced bigot for sure.
I mean, he was a lovable bigot.
I'm giving him a pass, despite however many times he called Tom a hunky. I'm giving him a pass.
That was one of our promos where Jemele and I played the game. He's a racist, and then I just threw George Jefferson at her. She was like, "Nah, he ain't racist."
Nah. Well, she's right though. But also too, Carrie, as black folks, we have once again taken on language and things that we learned on the plantation that was passed down generation to generation from massa and whatever that scenario is down into our families. Sure. And the origins of them are racist.
Sure.
They may not be racist in how we're doing it, but we have taken on our oppressors' behavior in many, many ways.
Okay, so let me.
That's racist.
That's racist. Okay, so I'm going to say this, and I don't want to be too deep and get too deep in the weeds of this.
Love deep.
Do you remember the argument that Oprah and Jay-Z had, and how he said, we reclaim that word. The AH is ours. It's a term of endearment. She was like, that word bothers me because people have died over that word. Now, I would love to tell you that I don't use that word. That's just not true. For emphasis, to tell you I'm pissed off, to make you laugh. Kind of like motherfucker, right? Because that can be a person, a place, or a thing, right? And sometimes you can also use that N-word for that as well. Is there any truth that we can reclaim words that were used to hurt us and make them powerful in a term of endearment, in your opinion?
Well, we have done that. That is actual fact that is done, but it's still, like you use motherfucker, it's still a curse word. It is still a bad word, and we know it's a bad word. And while it's used playfully, while it's used in people love to use hip hop as an example, but hip hop we talking about drugs and all type of debauchery and shit and crime and all type of things. They're like, but they use the N-word. He was like, you just shot somebody.
It's the one area where we want to look to the baby as an expert on language. It's like, well, the baby said you're straight.
But my point is you can't change the origin of words. You can change the context in which you use it in private, but I don't believe you can change the general kind of social acceptance of a word. And because still today, white people, there is no N-word pass. There is, by the way, as a black person, you all know this, you're not just walking into a room full of black people you don't know using the N-word when you don't know them like that.
Right.
You're not doing it. And you're definitely not walking and using the N-word in front of your elders and older folks just loosely because it's curse word. Right. It is that's a dirty word.
The elders for sure. 'Cause my
So
mom
yeah,
and pop-
and I tell people that all the time. Like, well, they're like, well, black people. I'm like, black people do not just walk around their home with their moms and their grandmothers and aunts using the N-word. That's not a thing.
That's true.
You
Yo,
will
but
get your face and your whole body blown out. You will get thrown against a wall walking in the house using the N-word like it's in front of grandma.
I had an interesting thought yesterday though, and I'm not the person to be able to like delicately make this as funny as it could be. So we all know the seriousness of the N-word and like how serious hopefully all good people take that word. But if you really spend a lot of time around black people, you will learn over time that being called out of your name in any way is taken more seriously among black people than white people. I have learned this lesson the hard way many times where I have said words that I'm like, this is just, bitch, if you let a suck my dick go, oh my,
That's fighting. We fighting.
white people.
Okay, you know what? You might as well stab somebody. That's
Yo,
not-
exactly. But I'm telling you, among white boys,
with each other. White dudes do that with each other.
white
right?
dudes, a suck my dick or a bitch or what, it's
do that with each
nothing.
other. But you say that to a black man, really, you about to get your ass whooped.
Yo,
Like,
I had a conversation.
anything that emasculates a black
Yep.
man, even clown. Who you calling
No,
a clown?
Ebro,
Clown,
a
pussy,
good friend,
suck my dick.
of ours, a good friend that both you and I know, but I'm not going to tell the story for him, but I will tell the story without saying who it is. We were having this conversation, and he's a white guy, and he was like, yo, I jokingly called someone a bozo on Twitter. He was like, I had to have 10 different conversations to calm down how big a deal it was. People don't like being called names, yo. And with white boys, we're used to yelling motherfucker at our parents at 7 years old. It's just a different culture.
No, but that's real. And white women, I've always had this conversation about how white women and black women don't always socialize the same because they've been cussing their mamas out since they were like 12. You know, like, oh, shut up, mom. And oh, fuck out of here, mother. And you just, I wish I would. Like, really, like, you just be like, I don't even know what that looks like. So that's why I feel like black women and white women have such a hard time getting along because it's so hilarious in the way.
Do you guys, do either of you have, I'm just popped in my head because you brought it up, any very close, immediate white girlfriends who are like among your best friends?
Yeah, I
do. I best friend, no. Close friends, yes.
Y'all had to think about it though. Let's keep it 100.
Yeah, there's thinking.
Oh, well, because we wanted to, like, because I'm thinking, you know, that word best friend is thrown around a lot.
Right, that's what
Right,
I was
and it's a real thing, especially for girls.
Yeah, girls are very serious about the best friend thing. So I was like, yeah, no, close friends. I have some really close friends.
Our girls that serious about best friend. Y'all have like 5 of them though.
True.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
but they're serious 5.
Yeah,
and I'm and I'm
Sure.
giving a man asked me if I have best friends. I'm like, what? Do grown men have best friends? Like,
You don't have
nigga,
a
that's
best
my boy. That's my family. That's my people.
Nah, I still refer to my childhood best friend as my best friend. I do.
I don't.
You don't have a best friend, Ebro?
Of course I do, and by definition, but I don't be like, yo, you guys are my best friends.
Well, no, so who is it though?
like that? Like, right? Look at Carrie. She started laughing. That sounds fucking crazy for a grown-ass man to be like, that's my best friend.
No, because, you know, what's more crazy for a girl? More crazy for a grown-ass man to respond with just the letter K in a text. And you can say, you can simply say, you can simply just be like, that's my best friend, yo. You said it very how you said it. You could literally
Nah, there ain't no way to say it. That's my boy. That's my people. That's my guy.
Right,
That's my family.
Like, dude, they don't. I think you feel like the word is too soft. They'll be like, "That's my best friend."
Yeah, that's true.
No, I don't know. I just but by the way, I never
Yes,
thought
Jemele,
of
that
it.
is how he sees it.
I never thought of it.
That Jemele, that you got it.
I never thought of it until me and Rosenberg probably had this conversation a couple years ago.
We have.
Where you were
We
like,
definitely-
yo, that's my best friend. I was like, you have best? What do you mean your best friend? Like, what are you talking about? This is like my buddy.
I
You know
have
what I mean? What is it?
categories of friends. Now listen, in adult life,
See,
I have a
and
few
by the
people
way,
that fit in the category.
categories of friends, I don't subscribe to that either. Either you're my friend,
Yeah.
or I know him.
No,
yeah.
no. That's unrealistic. I'm sorry.
That's not true. That cannot possibly.
It's not true.
Absolutely.
I consider both Jemele and Carrie friends, and we don't talk regularly, but they're still my friends. But I'm not going to put them in my best friend category.
Right.
Nah, I ain't buying it.
It's all or nothing. That's it.
I ain't buying it.
He's a psychopath.
That's why people use things like, no, that's my people. It's not a good people. It's because you stop short of calling them a friend.
Right. So okay, you have a hierarchy. You do have
yeah. What's the hierarchy?
Yeah.
It's like family, friend, family, you know, that whole friend, family, interchangeable thing. And then like my peoples.
And my peoples aren't friends.
Like we cool. Well,
and by the way, I have bad news for you guys, by the way. No matter what he says here on camera, that means y'all just fit into the my people's category. That's the best you could get.
But by the way, y'all my peoples, though.
Thank you for telling us.
But y'all my peoples. That's my peoples. I love Jemele and Cari. And by the way, I have love for my peoples, so there's still love.
I mean, at least you like, yeah, I know them. That's better than
I love for my peoples.
That's my peoples.
So, Jemele, sports question, or for either of you guys, you just talked to LeBron. He's been a little... I mean, I don't know if this is just sports radio people being too sports radio-y, but it does feel like LeBron's been a little off. He said things about the bubble that it's kind of strange and blah, blah, blah. And then I've noticed what he's really wanted to talk about this week is anything unrelated to basketball. He told the whole story of saving Carmelo Anthony. He did in one of his pressers, he talked about his his Madden football team for 2 minutes. Do you think he is in some way like just not that into the bubble experience? Where do you get about where LeBron is right now?
Well, and they lost last night to the
and then last night they weren't great.
Opener. That's not looking good.
Please don't remind Cari. Please don't do this.
Cari, our Lakers are looking trash. Only 2 people can score on the damn team, man.
Okay, so let me talk about this. Let's just take a moment. And I don't know if you want to do a moment of silence or if you want to do it here in this venue. How do you want to do this? I would like to tell you that you're off. Okay, LeBron he's into the bubble. He's fine with the bubble.
He's good with the bubble.
He's good with the bubble. He is living his best life in the bubble. He's just trying to find different things to discuss because he's so tired of everybody coming at him about the same shit.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
He's like, what else is there to talk about? We've been here. Yes, we're protesting. Yes, this is the deal. The only reason why he's not doing social media, still doing social media, is because he's really, I believe, quite frankly, what you're watching is the transition of someone who is going to become a politician eventually in some capacity. LeBron is very focused on taking his efforts that are very, I mean, when I say he is trying to, not even trying, he has really put together a very powerful coalition of people based on his name behind the scenes and things that we don't know about. He's really focused on that. I think that we're going to switch to playoff mode game 2. And that's just me and my biased ass self talking. But I think that he's been really focused on making a difference. Voter suppression, more than a vote, is a real thing for him. When he came on the show, he would not do very many interviews. He was very clear. He was like, look, I'm going to do it for y'all, but I do have something I want to talk about. And that was this open letter that we sent out. And he was just like, this is very serious to me. Voter suppression is real. He's partnering with different states to get rid of poll taxes for people who have been told they can't vote, mainly Black people who have been told they can't vote because they owe all these back taxes or different issues.
Mainly in Florida, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's fine with the bubble. For them to, I think, and if I had to guess, I think he has different privileges than everybody else does. I call him Commissioner James. And I think that he just needs to turn it on. They're working out their chemistry. Rusty as hell. They ain't been playing. And for some people, time off it takes them a minute to get their beat. But we don't have a perimeter shooter, Ebro. I'm with you. I'm just like, we got some problems. And my boy, sometimes Kyle, often called Carl Kuzma by Charles Barkley, sometimes
he sometimes is that guy.
Yeah, right. He is, and then sometimes he's not. But I think it's going to be a long series. But we're going to push our way about, and then we'll hit our beat second round.
I think LeBron just has a different mission. Like he's realizing, he's been in the league so long, and we forget that because we always think of him as kind of a young kid. But I think now he has some eye or some glimpse at what his future could look like outside of basketball. And we talked to him, we definitely put him on the ropes about whether or not he plans to run for a political office. And it's clear that these initiatives and just this conversation right now is like really important to him. But you realize all the players in the bubble, I feel like they may not be tired of the bubble, but there's no more balance in their lives. Mm-hmm. Like, or if they could go home, family, other things, go out to eat, it's something that's bringing you a level of balance, but you don't have it in this bubble. It's pretty much basketball, media, that's it. You know what I'm saying? And so even though they understand the situation that they're in, when you don't have that balance, I think you get he's probably a little fatigued with the media. I mean, think how long this dude has been famous. I mean, he's been famous since he was 15 years old. So it's like,
and he's like, y'all still want to talk to me every day? Like, come on.
Still have new questions. It's like, all right.
Questions. I'm gonna give you some new stories, but ain't no new questions. You see the way how he did his press conference the other day? Russ walks in, he stops the presser to talk to Russ and ask him about his squad. Like he don't care. He like
he's tired of us.
He's like, hey, my G, what's up? I see quad, okay. Now, what was the question?
Now, do you think if LeBron had said, "I'm good on the bubble, I'm not going to play," the league would have went on, or it would have shut it all down?
Oh, they just shut it down. There's no way they're not playing in the bubble without LeBron James. It's not happening. If he wasn't on board with the plan, they were going to make it so he was on board with the plan.
Right.
Like I agree with Cari. It's like the hierarchy is on paper is Adam Silver and LeBron, but it's really LeBron then out Adam Silver.
Right.
Because you said that. He was like, if LeBron want to play, we playing.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, I mean, and we asked him about how he would feel if they had to play an entire season in the bubble. And we talked about that. And I think as long as he believes in how the NBA has executed this plan, which they've done better than any sports league. They've done it better than America, if we keep it real.
What?
So
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's no question.
But the requirements, what I think we often don't forget, the requirements for them to be in the bubble and for it to have quote unquote success in terms of on paper is great. But the mental aspect of it, I think, is something that we've often forgotten. I've talked to so many players who struggle with mental illness, and they're like, their mental health rather, and they feel like being in the bubble is really hard to do for them because it's forcing them to focus on themselves in so many different ways. And you got all this time, you thinking, you got something to do. And that's hard for people who don't have the tools to look inward and figure out something else. Basketball is relief for them. And then for them to be isolated from the rest of the world, their loved ones, their family, no other distraction really. Because they have They have wine nights. Jimmy Butler giving them coffee.
It's honestly, in some ways, it's so healthy. Like when you think about these 23-year-old kids,
it's healthy, but they have to learn how to process it. And
it's going to take time. But man, imagine being 23. Discipline. Yeah, because these kids are used to I always think of Drake. Drake, for example, is like the most public image we have of the young, rich person who's always surrounded by people, right? It's like OVO is always moving as a unit. And with a lot of young kids who are 25-year-old multimillionaires, it's the same for them. They have their brother with them. They have their friend. They have this. They have that. Yes, it's totally rough, but I think they'll really benefit from not being able to try to get laid every night and not being able to do all the things that distract you from sort of.
I don't know about that, but go ahead.
I know. I was like, will they?
Do you think people are trying to get laid right now? You're saying?
Hell yeah!
What are you talking about, bro?
Look, they looking at the people who cutting their hair, braiding their hair, or whatever. The manicure pedicure lady look good. It's called bubble eyes. When we used to live in Bristol, they used to.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah.
We in Bristol, we'd be like, is he fine or is he Bristol fine? Like, because when you get separated from the world and you haven't seen men, you'd be like, but that is.
Why you have to compare Bristol to the bubble, son?
Because it's a bubble. Bristol is a bubble.
That is the most accurate description.
I know.
Why do you think on Bristol's campus they have a Starbucks, a credit union? They make it so the only reason you'd have to leave is for liquor. And really, maybe not even that, because some of us used to have it in our desk. I'm not going to say who. So at any rate, but no, it's like, it's the same thing. It's like it's the monotony of it. I mean, we've all experienced this on the outside, because we've been all in our own bubbles for months now. And you can't tell me that sometimes you just need a change of scenery. You just look, I just need to see some fresh air, see something different than the inside of my house or the inside of my office.
Speaking of Bristol, you both have now started many things outside of your, the past, which was the ESPN journey you guys were both on. Do you miss ESPN in any way, Cari?
I miss. You know what? This morning I got a text while we were getting ready for press to be here with you, lovelies. David Lloyd, my former co-anchor, said, "I'm so proud of you. I wish you the best. Good luck for you and Jemele today." Now that I miss him because he was a solid human, and he was always very there was a handful of people who helped me find my way there, and he was one of the few. And so I missed that because it wasn't bad times. It was an incredible platform. Like we wouldn't be in certain positions if we didn't have that platform, or be in a position to make certain money if we didn't have that platform. I miss that. I don't miss the ability to not be able to tell stories, the stories that matter to me. I don't miss the ability not to be able to speak out. I think I left in the end of January, and the whole world went to shit by March. And then we had so much, unrest happening. And I felt like if I would have been at ESPN, I wouldn't have been able to vocally speak about how I really feel. Meaning I wouldn't have been able to talk about Ahmaud Arbery or George Floyd or whack-ass Amy Cooper without feeling there could have been some repercussion on the other side.
Because you would have had to stick to sports.
Right. Very
now you get it.
Yeah,
there
you go. That's the name of the show. But I notice now that they aren't necessarily sticking to sports. But for me, that is that corporate social justice. It's not genuine. It's okay, well, this is what's happening right now. Because people should be able, the beauty of a newsroom, no matter where you work, I've been a journalist my entire life, the beauty of the newsroom is diversity. Everyone from all walks of life is supposed to come together and give their perspective, agree or disagree. And it felt very uniform. It felt very heavy-handed. Like after Skipper left, our former boss, after he left, the focus wasn't necessarily on telling great stories anymore, in my opinion. This is just my opinion. And you can only make so much money before you get tired of saying, I need to really do what my mission is. So my advice to people now, and I've been saying this forever, as in just 2 weeks, my advice to people now is you can't be attached to a person, a place, or a thing, because you lose your power and you also lose focus on your purpose. My mission is to always make sure that women of color, that women in general are respected, they have a voice, they have a place. And I wasn't able to do that. And I couldn't continue I have a foundation called Brown Girls Dream. I couldn't continue to talk to these young girls and mentor them and tell them to chase their dreams when I was chasing money. And so I remember having this conversation with Jemele about this. And she was like, girl, you about to be in a full-on relationship. She was like, you know how you dating a guy and, we know he ain't really treating you right and he ain't the best boy for you, and you leave and everybody gonna try to holler. I'm like, you think? And this is her way of comparing to me what's gonna happen. Because I'm really putting plans together to make these jumps, because I gotta jump. I can't keep, signing contracts. I gotta go. And she was like, yeah, watch. And I just, you get, and I don't know if y'all can relate to this. You get to a point where you start to believe the bullshit. Michael Smith used to always tell me, you still in that bubble, you think you ain't shit. You need to get out of that. He was like, okay. You still think you ain't shit because you've been here.
Well, that's that plantation.
That's that mentality.
That's
right?
that mentality where you think the word, and it's also the whole devil you know versus the devil you don't kind of scenario, where it's like, I'm safe here though. You know what I mean? And I know where my next check coming from.
Yeah, and real talk, if I hadn't left before the pandemic happened, I don't even think I would have been bold enough to leave. But not only did I leave at the end of the pandemic, tape my show with The Rock, right, in February. The world shut down. We're already sick in February. The world shuts down in March. And then from March until now, I not only got a show with one of my closest friends, and not just my people, like one of my best friends, right?
I know.
Real life friends.
Real life friend. I was in her wedding, fuck with her heavy. Then we go to TNT hiring me to do the arena, which is a franchise.
That was amazing. I watched that.
They're bringing it back. They're like, can you host this with Charles Barkley, Draymond Green, and D Wade? And then I have all these other projects without even just, talking about how the shit I am. But it was the thing my girl tried to tell me. She was like, watch, you're gonna have a bunch of dates. And you just have to really, truly believe in yourself and be faithful. Like if shit went to hell, I still have money to live. I was like, fuck it, I gotta jump. Now I ain't gonna never jump. And that was the best thing that I've ever done. And so for me, I'm not putting this on anybody else who is still there, but for me, that's what I had to do so that I could understand this freedom, so that I could actually find my voice again and do what I was put on this earth here to do.
Now, that the corporate social justice that you talk about, we're all going through it, right? With everything going on in society, I also work at Apple, and, all the way up to Tim Cook, right? We're having conversations about how we're challenging our white coworkers to, start to tune into their black coworkers, right? And how is it that with all of this stuff going on and happening to black people in our nation and happening for generations, is it that white people in your workplace are so out of tune with what you're going through mentally and emotionally? And how is it that your superiors are also in tune? I mean, literally, you're watching people who look like people you love, right, and people you know and who are a part of your family and friends, real friends, get killed by the state on the pavement. We're watching it. And, you know, I'm having these conversations in my spaces, but how is it that you expect a black employee to come to work the next day and just act like everything's okay?
Right. And in that regard,
go ahead, Jemele.
I was saying in that regard, that's why I don't miss being at ESPN in that regard, because you know how hard, like I had a show to do the day after, obviously, Philando Castile, right? And so every time one of these things happens and you're on air and you're not able to really participate in the conversation and to have vulnerable moments because of where you are, it's something about that's soul crushing. And I think, you know, I didn't mean to interrupt you, because I think where you're going with this is like wondering what is brought to light more than anything. We always knew this to be the case, but especially these last few months, is just how invisible we are to white people, just how invisible we are. And I have reached the point where I'm out of fucks and I just don't give them a pass. I'm not educating you. I'm not telling you what books to read, because as a fully functioning person in this society, you have seen enough cursory glimpses to know that there's a problem. You just didn't care. And so I can no longer look at the silence, the passiveness, the willingness, the unwillingness to engage as something that's accidental. But it has been amazing. You know, you were talking about close white friends. Over the last couple of months, I've had a lot of come to Jesus conversations with white friends of mine, some of which who were at my wedding, and they've all apologized, because the one thing that definitely happens in those relationships, be it at work or personal relationships with white people, what I realized upon reflection is that we actually protect white people more than they think from these kind of conversations.
For sure we do.
We protect them. Like, we don't have these conversations with them. And I think part of it is, especially if they're close to us and people we want to fuck with, is because we want to keep fucking with us.
Because
and the worst thing, the worst thing we could do is find out that all this time you really weren't the person that I thought you were. So rather than me having to experience being disappointed by you, I'm just gonna not talk to you about it at all. Because there are so many white people who are friends with black people and they never discuss race. They've never had. Is
that the same as in my mind? Sometimes I don't discuss it because it's like, you ain't gonna understand.
Exactly. I think that's the same thing.
You ain't gonna get it. So if I talk to you about it, you not getting it is gonna piss me off more than me talking to you about it.
So that's why I said we protect them more than they think, is that we don't want to get pissed off at them because they don't get it. And we also don't want to go through the frustrating exercise of when they want to get it and they're asking us, well, what should I read? We're like, okay, then you got to have a whole,
They're like, all right, man, get the fuck out of here, bro.
You like, dog, like, were you paying attention? So I guess there's a part of me that is just still stunned that you could go this long in your life and not ever be intellectually curious about black people ever. Like, how does that happen?
Well, it's because, and I'm going to tell you how it happens. Sorry, Carrie. It happens because they think they know black people because we've been entertaining them for so long. It happens because they see us all the time and they think that's us. It happens because they think hip hop is all we are, or sports is all we are, or an actor is all we are. So the people they see whom they're like, yo, black people chilling, like, what? Like, I see you, and you think that's all we are. You think that's like literally the extent of us as humans. And so you haven't been curious about our pain because you see our joy so much.
I mean, this is also all directly handled in Do the Right Thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yes,
you know,
yes.
That scene where
Sal's Pizzeria,
I
call it Sal's Pizzeria syndrome. Yeah,
and Mookie's like, but hold on, who's your favorite basketball player? Jordan. Who's your favorite artist? Prince. Who? Like, it's very easy for people to think that they're, and listen, I think I actually look back at my life and feel the same way, because I think that prior to me working at Hot, Maybe that's not totally fair. I always had black friends, especially when I got to college radio. But
Are they your best friends?
Not until now. That's the thing. They were my people. Only
That's what we laugh at white people when they be like, some of my best friends are black. Like,
yo, but listen,
and you're like, and we see now y'all getting to the root of it. Motherfuckers be out here lying about their best friends. I told y'all. I fucking told you.
But then I got best friend. I think for me, I culturally, because I was always and it's different because yes, I was so passionate about it that my parents pushed us when they saw we were into hip hop. We're like, hey, how about you read the autobiography of Malcolm X? How about you learn about other things about black culture, not just music? But my parents are very unusual. Most people, that's not happening. So you find people who are able to just listen to hip hop, see movies, and not care about black experience. But your life does change when you actually have people who are different than you closely in your life. And the reality is, most people, even progressives, black and white progressives, push comes to shove when they get home at night or on the weekend, they're with people who look like them. And I do think that's problematic in terms of our understanding of each other. You know, our show's so unusual because we talk about real life stuff in a multi-ethnic way every single day. Most people just don't have that experience. We're actually that experience for a lot of people because otherwise they wouldn't even hear diverse opinions. Sorry, I kind of went off the rambled there, but
that was some real shit. I mean, but you're right. Is that, you know, we all operate in silos, but this is why, you know, to tie it all together about not just our show, but just sports in general. This is why sports has a unique entry point to change people's opinions and to bring people into other people's lives, because sports is the only thing, or one of the few things, if not the only thing, that we actually do together. You know, we, as you mentioned, when we go home on the weekends, we're with people that we love and people that we know and people are in our circle. We certainly don't worship together. Like, that's just worship, and the faith experience in this country is as segregated as ever.
Yeah.
But what we do is watch the Lakers together, right? Or we have this common experience. So if they are, through these players who are expressing now their pain, able to understand that pain because their favorite player, LeBron James, is talking about Breonna Taylor, which makes them interested enough to like, what happened to Breonna Taylor? Let me go find that out. That's why, to me, you know, sports has always been a unique platform, and why I love sports. I mean, beyond just the competition and the results and the arguments and all those kind of things, I love it for its ability to unify.
Yeah,
so real quick, here we go. Let's do it. Let's set the internet on fire.
Oh, God.
We're going to break Beyonce's internet right
Here we go. Don't break Beyonce's internet, please. She works hard on it.
Yeah, she did.
Because of what we're seeing LeBron do right now, off the court, is LeBron James the greatest basketball player of all time?
I'm going to let Carrie take that one.
He's not the greatest basketball player of all time by definition of playing the game, but I think LeBron is very, very focused on leaving a legacy more so off the court. I think that he wants to be in the same sentence as one Muhammad Ali, as someone who dared to do whatever he needed to do to make sure others were aware and woke, if you will, of what's happening in our society today. When I did that Uber commercial with him and KD, the moment that he got in the car, he was just so very clear. He had his talking points in his head. He knew what he wanted to say. He didn't mix his words. I've never, you know, and obviously I wasn't around for the Cleveland Summit, but I've never seen an athlete that popular, that well-known, that loved by all, internationally, globally, speak so affirmative about a very racist president, about why he didn't like what was going on in the world, about how that office should be something you respect. I mean, he didn't mix his words. It was also when he was in Cleveland, he was just like, yeah, Ohio went with President Trump. He's like, y'all got it wrong here. He told the entire state they got it wrong. And I thought, I mean, we're and very boldly. Next question. So for me, he said, or he was well aware that he was that athlete that could do it and didn't care about losing his money, one, or knew that he wouldn't, two, or just wanted to make sure that everybody else could start speaking up. And that's what other athletes did. And to me, that's very powerful. You don't necessarily have to be great as the good? That's a great question, Ebro. Is he the greatest? People will debate me up and down. He's one of the greatest.
Well, you can say, because a different conversation would be best, right? That's a different convo. But this is about greatness, legacy. But
in that case, he's not striving for Jordan. If it's greatest, he's striving for Bill Russell.
Right.
Yeah.
Bill Russell's the great. If that's the conversation, Bill Russell from a society, race, player, coach, he did everything.
Yeah, but no, he's striving for Jordan. Like, don't get it twisted. He loved Jordan. Like, and if God forbid something ever happened to him, he would have wanted Jordan to show up the way he did for Kobe. But the reality is that
I think what Rosenberg was trying to say is he's Jordan with the rings, yes, and on the court, yes.
But Jordan's not the man LeBron is.
But more of a man beyond basketball.
I think there's just this conversation will be going on for the top of the end of time, right? I think there's very many places where we could put LeBron and say he's the best and the greatest.
Oh,
I think there are very many conversations where we could say that. I think what we're watching, like I said earlier, like I've been calling it for a minute. I was like, this kid's about to try to run. He's not a kid. He's a grown-ass man. But he's going to run for some office. And there's no perfect candidate, but he's going to run for some office in some way. And he's going to really try to make a change in that way. Like I see it, I feel it. His interest is he's too damn curious. He's too proactive on his own, and it's not just for the internet. It's just stuff that's being done behind the scenes that I think that people aren't aware of. So when it happens, you roll this tape back and be like, Cari told us.
But I do look at it this way, is that I sometimes look at how these arguments will be captured or presented over time. Yeah. And the reality is that there is a younger generation of basketball fan who thinks people our age are totally crazy for thinking Michael Jordan is a better basketball player than him. And I often have to remind these
youngins.
I synced it. Okay. I synced it. All right. Like, let me tell you, it's like, there are things that Michael Jordan did that really honestly defied description. But I think they are like 15 years from now, like it's going to be LeBron. I mean, he's going to own, just sticking into basketball, he's going to own probably all the significant records he made. And especially if he brings 3 different franchises a title, he might play with his son. These are all things that will be added to his ledger that over time, I think people will just say, you know what, he is.
Right.
From a pure basketball standpoint, what's crazy to me, and this is also making me vomit a little bit in my mouth because I'm from Detroit and it's inbred in me to hate Michael Jordan, because when I came up, I'm a big Bad Boys fan, big Pistons fan. And, I'm Captain Petty Pendergrass, all of that, as Cari will tell you when it comes to the Pistons. But all that being said is that, the things that I saw Michael Jordan do are actually beginning to get underrated. Like, people forget, it's like, he won Defensive Player of the Year. Like, he had 11 triple doubles in 12 games. Like, he did a whole bunch of things that like we never bring up.
Last Dance change that?
No, they don't change that. But I just hope people, the more distance that we get from having a generation of people who actually watch Michael Jordan do this in real time.
Well, I think that's what Cari's saying is, you don't think that seeing The Last Dance, is documentary that was loved by anybody who watched it, reminded them of Jordan's?
They did, but there was something. But again, we're in a much more fast food generation in terms of how we process information, and it's like, I don't know. It makes me understand why there are still people that I talk to of a certain generation who will shout you down and say Kareem and or Bill Russell is the greatest basketball player ever. I get why they're so attached to those arguments. It's the same in music. Like the music that
For sure.
Yeah, you guys go through
argument. You're saying, in short, this argument is about what generation is actually.
It's so true. And when you guys were just talking about it, I pushed myself to be like, wait, is there a chance I'm wrong? And the way that we're all basically the same age, the way that we picture Jordan, maybe he's not physically better than LeBron. It's hard to even.
He's not physically better than him. Like, LeBron was built in a lab, okay?
Right. He was.
Yeah. When I saw him in high school, I covered his first nationally televised game. And when I saw him up close, I was like, they need to check his birth certificate because they know he was 18 years old. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And you know, I do think, I mean, to your point, you know, Rosenberg, is like some of it is that we're making convoluted arguments. Like Michael Jordan has never been the physical specimen than LeBron. He's not 6'8" and he's not 260, right? However, that being said, there was a inevitable finality to when you were in a series with Michael Jordan. You were going home.
Yeah, that was it.
Like,
and you didn't doubt, and you didn't have any doubt. You didn't go and think, perhaps he's not. When he was Michael Jordan, you never thought this may not work out. There's times where like Ebro's like, oh, are Lakers in trouble? We would never have that full conversation.
Never have it with
happen.
And then
it wasn't happening.
That wasn't a full conversation. And the thing is that while we talk about his physical, like when I tell you, when I look at LeBron, you're right, he is built in a lab. But then you look at Jordan. When I watched Last Dance, it would just reminded me, what the fuck is this swagger? I ain't seen shit like that ever. I'm like got a fucking cigar. It's a different time. I'm talking shit. I'm making up stuff to make me mad. His mental was on a whole nother level. Like, I'm pissed off. I'm mad that he said this, and people were like, nigga, I didn't even speak to you. What are you talking about? Like, I'm coming at you. I heard you last night. Nigga, what? Like, excuse my French.
He's the pettiest, one of the pettiest athletes of all time. And it's just
speaking of Last Dance, I'm still stuck on how you were smoking cigars and staying in shape. How did I'm stuck. How did they even happen? Y'all was smoking cigars.
But I don't think he
day.
drank alcohol though when he played. I don't think he drank though. You know, and
it sounds like not till later. I think he did it later.
And he was also doing 6 a.m. workouts every day too, because that's what Kobe adopted from him was that.
And then I don't really think he was poisoned with that pizza. I think that he made that up too. I think he just needed something. Listen, I don't know, but whatever it mattered, he was just great.
Well, first of all, it was all marketing because they called it the flu game, knowing damn well it was pizza, and then let it rock for 20 years.
Exactly.
Did you guys ever see that spoof that they did at CBS Sports, and the guy picks up the phone and he just talks about the snitch line for
that was great. The bubble snitch
wasn't
line.
it great? He was like, yo, no, you can't have a flu game. You got to find your own way to be great. Okay, so it was the accuracy and everything about it was so on. And I thought to myself, when it's all said and done, like Jemele said, these conversations are generational. They really are. Yeah. He is the greatest player of his generation. That is the way that I could say about LeBron. He is the greatest player of his generation. I'm one of those who get pissed off because I felt like when LeBron came on the scene, everybody forgot about Kobe. And it was a bit of an overlap. It's like the elder millennial and the millennial. You guys heard of the term elder millennial?
Kobe was on the top of that.
Exactly. So I let that ride, and I don't put them in the same class because Kobe was an older millennial, if you will. And so that's the way I justify it, because I do feel some type of way. Like for me, just on sheer fandom and representation and growing up here, Kobe narrated some of the highest points of my life as, you know, being in LA, watching us bringing on these chips like that. That to me will be something I will never forget.
Don't you think we could just label it like, when you look at it, 2000 to 2009, basically Kobe, and then it's 2009 plus. It's kind of been LeBron, and they crossed over in the middle. But in 06, 07, it was still Kobe to me. It was still Kobe.
For sure. He had his decade. LeBron's had his more than a decade. Yeah.
You guys, we were talking about social justice, what's going on in society, and how that kind of joins in the workplace, happens in the workplace, and we're all working on that in our workplace. What advice do you guys have for anyone who might be wanting to be invited to the Black meetings where Black folks get together and discuss how they're going to push corporations to be more socially responsible and socially involved in justice, or how they're going to gather as co-workers to go out in the community and make change in the community? What advice do you guys have for people who don't get invited to those meetings and who are also Black?
Who are Black?
Who are Black and don't get invited. Yeah, who are Black and don't get invited.
Well, what I would say to them is that, one, you can't be sensitive and you have to be willing to hear why you aren't invited. And of course, nobody likes to consider themselves, for lack of a better way to put it, like there's some kind of sellout or there's some kind of coon, or, nobody wants to look at themselves that harshly in those terms. But you have to ask yourself, is like, why does my own community not trust me? What have I done so that they feel as if I'm not a part of their community, that I'm not down with them? I don't know. I'll be frankly honest, Ebro, like I don't know of too many Black people that I would put in that space that are willing to be that self-reflective, because if they were, they wouldn't be on the outside of their community, right? But I think as Black people, we have to be obviously willing to engage to a degree as to not give a platform to stupidity. Carrie and I have talked about this over the last couple of days. Here's where Black conservatives really get on my nerves, is that they act like what they're saying is so revolutionary, that telling Black people to pull themselves up by the bootstrap and we got to be more personally responsible and we got to fix our own communities. Do they know we all got a Meemaw and elders? We've been hearing that shit our whole lives. That's not a new message, okay? One of the things I often bring up is that when Bill Cosby was going around the country telling Black men to pull their pants up, who was the audience? Black people. It was nothing but Black people in the audience. So we are used to and accustomed to hearing these messages about self-sufficiency. We know we got. We've heard this. We've done this. We have never folded despite facing such tremendous adversity. So this idea that they're feeding the mainstream, that we have given up, that we lazy, that we just want a free ride, is just some shit so they could keep grifting these dumbass white people to think that they are somehow the talented 10th in our community, and they're not. So my number one problem with them is that they're not original, and they're delivering a message that they didn't heard from every Black grandma in America. Okay, so what I would say to them is that instead of trying to lecture us about what we need to be doing, that they need to figure out how to honestly be a part of a solution-oriented ideas to fix it. I mean, Black people are really the only people that get told that we got to be a perfect people just for basic ass humanity. Only we get told that. Right? White people ain't got to fix themselves to be considered human. They don't have to solve the murder rate in the white community. They don't have to fix white collar crime in order for the government to recognize them as equal citizens. We have to do that shit. And I often wonder, I know it's part of the internalized oppression and racism that has been passed down to us. You know, it's often been said that sooner or later you take on the traits of the oppressor. So they need to stop trying to be the favorite and stop trying to be in with a particular group, with the mainstream group, and really get about the work of dedicating themselves to their community. If they're really intent on helping, but unfortunately, I just find that most people who fit that description are people who are disingenuous and people who want to be outsiders of the community. They have no motivation to be a part of us.
Go ahead, Carrie, go ahead.
I was just saying, I just think they're just not happy with themselves. I know what you're asking, and Jemele and I have been talking about it a lot. And so the reality is this, like for so long, and I think the way that we've been raised, especially as Black folks, is to be polite and respectful and never, ever. I know I have a hard time going after my own. So I genuinely have a problem talking about other Black people publicly, Black men especially, and of course, obviously Black women. I have a problem no matter how wrong they may be or how they may have a view in which I may disagree. I just don't feel the need to do it because there's so few of us who have a platform. I don't want to fight inside the house.
That's partly why I asked the question the way I asked the question, because I did see the Bossip clip, and you know, which is moving around. But the reason I asked the question the way I asked the question is because I didn't want to focus it on an individual. I wanted to focus it on it's about an idea.
It's about the idea, and it's unfortunate because those individuals, sometimes they get more press than we get for the work that we're actually doing. And it's just unfortunate. And Jemele has said it better than most of the time, our silence is grace. We rarely ever feel the need to put out that professional ether. But then when we do, it's for a reason. It's because we're tired and we just say, you know what, I'm tired of you. I mean, you're grown. Everybody in here has experienced success, and we've worked with people who have put us in positions that have made it uncomfortable and made our lives uncomfortable, but we still go in every day and deal with it, and we handle it because we are professionals. But sometimes you have to acknowledge what it is, call a spade, if you will. By the way, side note, is calling a spade racist?
I don't think that has anything to do with the racial slur.
I don't know. It might, Rosenberg.
But you never know. No, in America, you never know.
Careful.
Because eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I thought eeny, meeny, miny, mo was straight when I was a kid.
I just learned from the RZA the other day.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo is racist.
Wow, I didn't know that.
You see? And I just learned that the Ice Cream Man theme song is from a minstrel show. The RZA shit. So careful with the whole,
you're right.
We don't know. Hey, Carrie, we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. It's a good question.
We don't know.
Jemele, is calling a spade racist?
It sounds racist.
That's racist.
Why you calling spade spade? It sounds racist.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look it up.
I feel like you're safe if you just say yes, it's racist. Like I didn't know the word Eskimo was racist.
It is?
Yeah.
The word Eskimo is racist.
Eskimo is slander because they're Inuit. Their First Nations Inuit is the tribe. Eskimo is like some term made up by some crackers, like the rest of the shit we dealing with.
Wow.
There you have it. This is why that segment was created, an opportunity to educate.
Just remember, most of our education came from some crackers that set up some shit. So just assume that the shit was racist until you learn otherwise. Came from some crackers that stole some shit and raped and hurt people.
Listen, I don't. Why? What's the origin of calling a spade a spade?
So I'm looking at right now. It says it originates in the classical Greek of Plutarch's. I can't even pronounce what this is, and was introduced to the English language in 1542.
Racist.
I know.
Yeah, racist. Shit.
I don't see anything here that relates anything to a people. I don't think it's that. I think it's an actual. What's an actual spade? That's the question. What's an actual spade?
I thought a spade was a shape.
Is it just a shape or is it a shovel?
Let me look.
Well, I thought it was the shape of the shovel.
No, I
Like
don't.
the shovel head, because they have different shovel heads, right?
They have that, right.
Right. So the spade shovel head is a,
And then how did that become a racial slur?
because
Because
it's
of
the
the
black
color
card.
of the-
Because
It's
it's
the
a
black.
spade. It's a black. So why you calling a
No,
spade?
it's a tool, Ebro.
Yeah, tool. It's the shape. It's a
No,
tool.
not the shape. It's a tool with a sharp edge, typically rectangular metal blade.
Oh, got
So
it.
maybe calling a spade is like calling you out for using a tool to do something deceptive is something that we should be
No, it's
aware
bullshit. Why you calling a spade a spade?
of. I don't know. I'm trying to
Because you
figure
wouldn't
out
have to
what
call a
it is.
spade a spade. It's already a spade. So why are you calling a spade a spade? It's because you're calling somebody black a spade.
Okay, so it's racist. Is that what you? That's
Because
what
guess what? Guess what else is a tool? A hoe. And if you call a hoe, you in trouble too.
Yeah, but I know Jemele remembers when Boss said, she used the term differently. You're from Detroit.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You remember Recipe of a Hoe, one of the most important records.
That's what I was thinking of. I was like, yeah, true.
No, there was I wasn't actually going anywhere. She just says you got to let a hoe be a hoe. It's not the right thing. It's not the
Yeah,
right
because I'm
thing.
not like what I'm looking. I'm like, what's happening?
Cari and Jemele, Cari Champion and Jemele Hill tonight on Vice, 10 p.m. Stick to sports, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. It's always great to see you guys. I love you both. Y'all my peoples.
Bye, friends.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
Thank
Peace,
you. We're your
guys.
friends. Thank you. Bye.